welcome to the latest in our series of Coffee in Palestine. Today I'm outside one of the most important historic holy sites in the world. That is the Church Nativity in Bethlehem. This Church Nativity attracts hundreds of thousands of tourists, pilgrims and Christians every year. However, why for then do the Palestinians claim that this tourist-reliant economy is being irreversibly damaged by the Israeli occupation of their land? I've come here to speak to the Minister of Tourism, Rula Ma'aya, to find out more. First of all, a very warm welcome and thank you so much for joining us for Coffee in Palestine today.
Thank you, and you're most welcome here.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to talk about the issues. I'd like to get straight into it. The issues of the occupation surrounding Bethlehem and how this is having an adverse effect on tourism.
Yes, well actually I don't want only to talk about Bethlehem. Of course, Bethlehem is one of the most important places for tourism in Palestine. Of course, the most important is Jerusalem, and then comes Bethlehem, and what affects Jerusalem and Bethlehem also affects all other Palestinian cities, which also attract tourists from all over the world. First, I don't want to talk first about problems, maybe to give an idea, if you want an idea about tourism here in Palestine, and then we can talk about the problems, which are a lot, of course, due to occupation we're facing in the tourism sector here in Palestine. First, I would like to say that Palestine is the Holy Land. Palestine is Jerusalem, Palestine is Bethlehem, Palestine is Jericho, all the important cities. Yes. And here we're talking about the holiest place for Christians and also for Muslims, because the Jerusalem means the Holy Sepulchre, Al-Aqsa, the Dome of the Rock. Bethlehem means the birthplace of Jesus, the Nativity. Whatever we find here in Palestine, we can never find in any other part of the world.
And don't they even have Israeli hotels in the settlements surrounding?
We heard they're building hotels, but until this moment, all the tourists, they don't stay in settlements. They stay in the land occupied in 48. And in Israeli hotels. This is where tourists stay usually. But we're working with the private sector, and we have many activities, sometimes through the diplomatic missions or through our activities out of the country, when we participate in fair exhibitions all over the world. What we do actually is that we give the opportunity to the tour operators to meet other tour operators from all over the world, to convince them that they're coming to Palestine. Palestine is the holy place, that they should spend more time in Palestine, in all Palestinian cities, and that they should come stay in Palestinian hotels, eat Palestinian food. And we succeeded, as I mentioned. The last, let's say, 2 years were different, although we had for the last maybe 5 years an increase, but the last 2 years were significantly different.
But this sounds relatively positive, but I'm wondering still whether there is an adverse effect on the economy here, considering the Israelis have the monopoly over tourism that's coming through Jerusalem. So the majority of tourists, they have to come through Jerusalem before they get to Bethlehem.
But Jerusalem is Palestine, and we have many hotels also in Jerusalem, many tour operators that are working in Jerusalem. Of course, we have problems. Yes, we have problems. We don't have our airport, and the most important thing for tourism is to have an airport, to have an airline that brings tourists here. But what I'm trying to say is that We cannot just say we are under occupation and that's it. We cannot do anything. The Israelis will take everything. No, we have problems with the Israelis, but we Palestinians have hope, and we always keep hope that we should be working even in very difficult situations and try to improve and try to gain whatever we can, despite all the problems of the Israeli occupation.
So in that case, what kind of monopoly does the Israelis have over tourists coming to Palestine?
Of course, like the Israelis, they have one thing in mind. They want to benefit, and they don't want Palestinians to benefit at all. They want to give peanuts for Palestinians to benefit. The Israelis want like the tourists, they either come through Jordan or through the airport in Tel Aviv. So when they come here, like they come through the borders that are under the authority of the Israelis. So they have more control on the tourists visiting Palestine. So when they have the power, they have the authority, they are the occupation, they try to work from their own point of view, for their benefit, not point of view actually, for their own benefit. And this is the problem, and this is what we're fighting against.
Now, in terms of people who can actually gain access to Palestine, you talk about them, preferably staying for more than one day, preferably seeing more than just the Church of Nativity, although it's the most important holy site here. However, there seems to be a discrepancy between the needs of people in Bethlehem and actually what they're advertising to the tourists. So the majority of people I've spoken to have no idea what Al-Khada Gate is. They have no idea what Batir is, even though this is going to be put on the UNESCO site. So, tell me, what are they missing out and why?
Yes, it's again the Israelis, the propaganda of the Israelis. They say that not all places are safe for tourists that are coming to visit Palestine. They try to tell them that some places are not secure. I'm not only talking about Al-Khadr, Bethlehem, but also there are very important places in the north, in the south, in Hebron, for instance, that would attract archaeological sites, religious sites that could attract tourists. And now we started, when we talk about making the tourists stay more in Palestine, this doesn't only mean that they visit only some places in one city, but they have to go all over Palestine and visit all Palestine. In that sense, they will stay more in Palestine.
Okay, I'd like you to show me the Church of Nativity now, so we're going to go inside with you. And I'll just ask you a few questions on the way, if that's okay with you. So just tell me a little bit, before we go into the Church of Nativity, about some of the most important historic places, particularly in Bethlehem, that we just never hear about.
The Shepherd's Field is a very important site, and almost all tourists who come to Bethlehem, they visit the Shepherd's Field. Of course, we have churches all around, very old churches, wherever you walk in Bethlehem, you can feel it. Also, the old city of Bethlehem, which was now the Pilgrim's Route, which is now on the World Heritage List. It is also very important to walk the street and to see to see the street that was also inscribed on.
Asking you a question. I'd just like you to tell me a little bit about where we are in the Church of Nativity now.
Yes, of course, this is the Church of Nativity. This is the place where our Lord Jesus was born more than 2,000 years ago. Now this place is under renovation. The ceiling of the Nativity is under renovation, as you say. This place is the oldest church that is still a church. You know, there were some oldest churches, but they're not now churches. But this is the oldest and still a church. Here, the mosaic that you see, it is, you know, from the time it was built in the 4th century. This is the mosaic that goes all over this area.
Right.
Yes, it is now protected. We can see only part of it. And this ground is when it was renovated again after almost 200 years from the first time it was built.
So this would have once been the stable in which Jesus was born, and then they built the church over it.
And this is the church which was built over the cave.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And this was 2,000 years ago the church was built. So immediately it was built over the cave. Yes.
Here Jesus Christ was born of the Virgin Mary in Latin language. The hole in the middle of the star, it's the original floor of the cave where our Lord Jesus Christ was born.
Yes, fantastic. So people, I mean, we've got hundreds of people coming all the time,
So,
and
we
we
can
take
keep it,
roadshows. So, thank
Everybody have chance just to get some food.
you. Right.
Yeah, because we have too much people all the days. About 200 bus, 160 bus, which is about 10,000 people. Every day we have like
10,000?
Yeah, this time it's just this month. Before it was less.
This place hasn't always been so peaceful. We had the siege on the Church Nativity. The side of the Church Nativity was bombed, as far as I'm aware. Can you tell me a bit more about this?
Well, yes, during the Second Intifada, of course, like for everybody, for every person in the world, the safest place to be in is the church. And during the last Intifada, the Palestine, when the Israelis entered and started shooting Palestinians, the safest place for Palestinians to hide in was not only a church, but the Nativity. Like they couldn't leave the church for months, and they don't have food anymore because the church gave them all the food they have, and they don't have food. So the people who were in, they wanted to go out and try to find something to eat from the ground.
I wanted to find out more from tourists about their reasons for coming to Bethlehem and how aware they were of the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
All the people here, no, the Palestinians and the Jews and the Muslims pray for the peace. Then it would happen.
We came here to see what's the situation. We want to feel it by ourselves, not just to see the news in TV.
I am giving support to the Palestine fight, so I know a little bit about the situation. So I would like to be here justly because I would like to know the Palestinian situation.
Ottoman Empire. So let's just have a look at this.
Or the Jordanian, or the Britain,
So this might be about maybe 100 years old,
I think,
do you think? Yes, yes. And you can clearly see we had Christians and Muslims always here.
Here you can see the fathers, the priests, here the soldiers.
Were there Jewish people here as well?
I don't think so. No, it's only Christians and Muslims.
Although Bethlehem remains one of the most popular tourist spots in Palestine, as I walked towards the Israeli wall, I noticed the majority of shops and businesses were closed down. I spoke to economic advisor Richard Yass to find out more. I'd like you to tell me, first of all, a little bit about this situation with the Israelis monopolising on the tourist industry and how businesses such as the shops down here have been affected by this.
First of all, one of the biggest monopoly when it regards of the visa entry for the area of Palestine. They have the greatest monopoly. We as Palestinian travel agents, we can't apply for visa for people to come to the country. And this is one of the main reasons. Some of the countries would like to have a visa from the Palestinian areas.
Yes.
Or for Palestinian travel agents. But unfortunately, we don't have that power.
Right.
And secondly, we have, when you regards about the monopoly, other monopoly, they are trying to market that their travel agency is more powerful than the Palestinian travel agents. But if we have a little more power, we will show that the Palestinian travel agency are much powerful.
I'd like to know how many stores are shut along here and how you're trying to revitalise the economy now by asking people to come to Palestine to spend money in the shops, because this is now quite far away from the Church Nativity.
This was the main road into Bethlehem. It's called the Star Street. It's probably the road that our Lord Jesus had passed by it, or the parents of our Lord Jesus passed by when they came into Bethlehem. This was the main road. 100 years ago, the Britain have opened another road called the New Road.
Yes.
And this used to be the most, people used to pass these roads daily. Tourists, pilgrimage, local people. These stores used to be open 40, 50 years ago. So they found that at least they can do is to come to the Nativity Church, going to the restaurants and going out to the shop and going out. And this we're trying to take it away, this kind of prototype, but it's not easy. By time these stores started finding the economic crisis passed through, and they found it much difficult to keep the stores open.
And here it is, the infamous Israeli wall that is dividing and isolating the Palestinians from Bethlehem from their Jerusalemite neighbours. The Israelis now plan on extending this wall, as we're about to find out. The water is sourced from 7 separate springs. It runs along this ancient Roman irrigation site and into this 4,000-year-old pool just beside me. This is the village of Batir, another ancient site that's in danger from the Israeli occupation. Residents of Batir have applied to add this ancient Roman town to the UNESCO World Heritage Site list. They hope this will allow a larger influx of eco-tourists to the area.
First of all, it's our pleasure to have you in Batir.
Thank you.
Our village is just located southwest of Jerusalem. It's about 8 kilometers the far distance from Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem. And it's well known all along the past history of its importance location in between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. It's also an important area of the natural resources that exist here. One of the main natural resources is the water springs that the village is well known. That's what built an interest for all the past civilization to take a place on this site and to consider its importance of the place.
The Israelis have proposed to build a wall that will cut directly through the village of Batir. This will not only isolate the villagers from their rich agricultural land, but will destroy the ancient Roman terraces and irrigation system and a Roman castle in this village.
Part of the plans of the Israelis is to build a separation wall in this village also as anywhere else in West Bank. It's not the only condition. But in this village, as it's again on the borders of the West Bank, they are neglecting the part which we already own next to a railway station or a railway track that links between Jerusalem and Israel. It passes through this village, and they're planning to build the wall right next to the railway track, where it's going to cut around 3,000 dunams of the land of Batir village. And the impact of this, it will not only confiscate the land, but also it will be on other natural and cultural elements exist on the ground, such as the terraces that we can see all over here, the Roman ancient aqueduct system that is distributing the water all over this valley, which is a big values that also the impact of the wall is going to destroy it. And as soon as the bulldozers is going to start excavating for the wall here, all these elements are going to be totally destroyed, and no one can bring them back as it exists now. Now the final plan is that it will be built about 25 meters far distance from the railway track on this area. Yes. And it will continue parallel to the railway track. So all this valley where you can see the olive groves down there, it will be cutted from the village and it will be taken to the other side inside the wall, I mean to Israel. I would like to invite you for a cup of coffee that we're going to make together here in the nature in Batir.